Hello? 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 I'm unmuted. Hello? Hello? I am talking. Hello? Can anybody hear me? Hello? No, I cannot hear you. I can see your message. Is there a button I need to press? Okay. Uh, is there a question I can answer? I cannot hear you, so it has to be typed in. Okay, thank you.
Recording in progress.
Julie. Um, I don't know why I'm talking to you on fixed computer. Can you hear me? Okay. I've been sitting here. I mean, I got it on the cell phone, and they can hear me, but I don't hear them. So it is terrible. They're gonna. I don't know what's going on. They said, send me a little message. They said it's time for you to talk. So I think they. Well, it would be nice, but it's this is this. Sounds like. I don't know. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, I'm sorry I cannot hear anyone, but I'm speaking. My volume is to the highest. Put it on speaker. How can you put a speaker to
Put your phone on speaker?
this?
Zoom on speaker. Hold on a second. What? Can I get out of this?
We're trying, excuse me.
Oh, you're muted, it looks like.
No, I'm not muted. That's them. It shows that you are muted. I don't know if you can hear me now. I lost. Can you go back to the
Chat.
chat?
Sir, can you?
Oh, I can hear you now.
You can hear us now. All
now
right.
I can hear you. Great.
Okay, here we go.
Oh,
Good.
I'm so sorry. I'm really not sophisticated at all when it comes to technology. My daughter just came from her house to help me. So here we are.
All right. Thank you. Sir, if you could state your name and address, and then please give your presentation of the case or whatever you'd like to say.
Okay. And well, I'm sorry I missed everything so far, but yes, my name is Christopher Zahariadis. Together with my daughter, Julie, we own the property there, Seaton Square. I guess my home address would be 314 West College Terrace in Frederick.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I submitted a statement, which I hope you have read, so hopefully I don't have to repeat everything. But
Right.
if you want me to, I'll go through the main points.
No need to repeat what you said in the email. We have read that. If there's anything you'd like to emphasize, having listened to what happened before here in the hearing.
Well, I could not hear the hearing. So I assume that it's well, I'll make some assumptions about what went on, but I think I know what may have been said, the main points. The point I guess I need to make is that we have a very respectful business there. We are very aware of the requirements, and the zoning requirements. My wife and I have actually built a school in Frederick County. So we have gone through the whole process of approvals. And we had to get special exception as well because we were on agricultural land. So I'm very aware and very respectful of those things. I understand the purpose is to make sure that businesses are able to operate with a minimum of distraction and nuisance. And the process that I like to have is that in our lease, each tenant has to we include in our leases those provisions, and we ask them to respect them. If there is a problem, they're responsible for the day-to-day stuff. We become responsible once there is a problem between tenants. And that has happened very few times. And I think the one example that you have between the academy and the insurance company, the State Farm, we dealt with it. I mean, it took us a little while to find a place for State Farm. State Farm was very happy to move to the new location, and the problem was resolved. The only problem that I see remaining is the one of safety. You know, children on the driveway, children on the sidewalks, whatever. This is an issue that we became aware, several weeks ago, and we have been in discussion with the academy about it. And I believe, I don't know if this was discussed at all with you, I believe that they have come up with some good ways to address it. I was not aware that this was going to be brought until today. I was not aware that this was going to be brought up. In my due diligence, I talked with the neighbors, the current neighbors, which is Building First Source. As late as 2-3 days ago, when I called the manager there, I was told that there was no issue. There were no problems. Perhaps they were referring to noise, but it was the issue that is in their letter to you was not mentioned to us. I talked with the gentleman that runs Blue Line, and it was similar. There are very minor issues, and he's confident that whatever is left will be resolved with some acoustical tiling. By the way, Kevin Walsh, who owns that company, is our go-to person. I mean, he's the one that takes down walls and puts up walls when people move into the property. So he knows the buildings really well. And if he feels okay about what's going to be done, I'm sure it's going to be okay. I don't know if there are any other issues that you would like to address, but I'll be happy to answer questions.
Okay. Scott, do you have any questions? Wayne?
Yeah, this is Wayne Slaughter. Just real quick. I would like to understand from your perspective whether or not having a school in that environment seems like a reasonable solution based upon everything that we understand about safety and concerns about noise and other issues like that. Because I look at this as being a difficult decision to make regardless, because it's not a perfect fit. We know that. So you're making what we used to refer to as special accommodations. And it's really difficult to find an environment where you can do that, because anytime you accommodate one thing, you're usually disrupting another. So it's not perfect. And I think we're just sort of in a position where we have to look at this and we have to say, can we make this work? And there are a lot of people involved in that decision, and we're listening to one now. And as far as I'm concerned, what I'm hearing from you, sir, is that you think this is a solution that can work. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I'm sure it would. Let me say one more thing about this. When the academy approached this to take over the space that was being vacated, we were actually excited, because I believe there should be room and there should be space for businesses like these. And we did not anticipate the kinds of issues that have come up, and we are working on them. I mean, with our school, it took us years, before everything was in place and working smoothly. I don't expect that to be the case here. In helping the academy move in, we spend a lot of money responding to the requirements for permits and the fire department's requirements, et cetera, for the state. To be honest with you, the 2.5 years of the lease, the income we're going to get has actually already been expended in those provisions. So it is, from the financial point of view too, I think, to deny the ability of the school to take a little bit more space that they already had actually at the beginning, because before we asked them to make it available for the for State Farm. Um, uh, it's a little rough, to take, but I don't know exactly if I have answered your question completely, but I think that, I mean, if you look around Frederick, there are several places, several developments that have schools within areas where there are businesses, and they work fine. I think our case may be a little bit different than some of those in that everybody's next to each other. They are adjacent instead of having some separation. But I believe it can be worked. I think it will be good for everybody else. I don't know if I answered your question completely, Mr. Suave.
Yes, you did, and thank you very much.
All right. If there are, I have no questions, sir. Except you did say, I do have a question. You did say the multi-year leases that your tenants sign include requirements to protect the character as well as provisions to prevent noise, nuisance, or other conditions. So you're saying that you hadn't heard anything from Mr. Bankert, and you were not aware of the issues in the parking lot with the safety? You're
No,
saying you
we-
just found out about that today?
no. We recently became aware of that, and I have been talking with the academy staff
Okay.
about solutions. But when I call, I did not hear it from Eric Banker. I did not hear it from him. When I talked with him, I was told that they had no concerns because they were hardly using the space adjacent to the wall from the
Okay.
academy anyway. I was not told anything about the kids running around.
Okay.
But we were aware that that was an issue. And I was concerned that it was an issue. So I don't know exactly what plan you have heard from the academy, but my understanding is that in the near future, I mean, that activity, the recess activity and whatever is going to be moved off the site. So,
Okay. So that won't happen anymore in that parking lot.
that's correct. I agree with the concern. First of all, let us understand that this is an isolated place. I mean, it's the primary cars that come around there are tenants.
Mhm.
It's not a highway. It's not a thoroughfare. There is no pass-through traffic. Okay, it is just a big circle, and it is people who park there or come to park there for business.
Right.
But nevertheless, there should be no children running or using it for other purposes except for parking and the cars as a driveway.
Okay.
So that has to be stopped, and it will be stopped. So
Okay. I agree. I was stating earlier that I had driven past there today and flinched when a ball came zinging past my window that I thought was going to hit my car. So, and that just happened this morning. So anyway, but if you say it's going to be stopped, then, and we also heard from Mrs. Crook that it would be. All right. I don't have any other questions. We appreciate your being willing to come on, and we realize we hope that things go well with you, sir, personally. So,
well,
thank
I
you
was
for being here.
hoping to be there in person, and I'm sorry. Actually, this is the second time that something came up, and I was not able to come up there.
We understand.
So,
And thank you for your information. Do you have any other questions? No.
No.
All right. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome to stay and listen if you'd like, but we have no other questions of you.
Yes, I would like to listen if you don't mind.
Okay. Not a problem at all.
Just please mute your microphone if you would.
Okay.
Thank you.
My dog.
Ask your daughter. Yeah. I always ask my grandson for help. Oh, that's cute. I really like that. Thank you. Can we show that to the camera?
Exhibit 13.
Exhibit 13. Thank you. All right. Clark, did you have anything else you would like to add to this before we begin to
Just
discuss?
just Mr. Crook, give you the opportunity since you signed up. If there's anything you'd like to say before we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing.
No, everything I think I would say has been substantively said already.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Then no.
All right. I'd like to say first that I agree with you, Wayne, that whatever we do needs to be done within the term of a school year so that there's certainty in what's being done. So I think that that's true. I wanted to make sure that Mr. Mills, yes, Mr. Mills and everybody knew that there was no discussion or disagreement that a Catholic school was not a good idea here. I think we're all in favor of, keeping parochial education and having a school in town. And it does bring economic benefits and certainly civic, and we all are involved in civic activities. So we respect that and understand that. It's just the matter of the location in an industrial park and whether or not that can work with the special exceptions that we need to grant to make this happen. It seems like the owner is very much in favor of this. We have heard from 2 neighbors where there were issues. One has moved. One, you said that you're going to stop the kids playing in the parking lot and, have some other place for them. It's just, I hate to see all these requirements being put on when if you could find a space that was suited for you, you would have all the space you needed to let the kids sing as loud as they wanted and, yell. It just seems that that's maybe making the best of a bad situation. And I would hope that something else would arise for you there. Now, as to the case at hand, can we grant you the special exception based on the 7 factors? Or there might be more than that. Let me see. Anyway, based on the 7 factors and the additional information that we have in front of us. All right, Scott, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that there are 14 town codes that we were given. There are 4 that have changed from the last meeting, which at that time, the town staff's recommendation was to grant the waiver.
Mm-hmm.
The builder first source is the one issue that is common for ordinance 2, 7, 9, and 12, they all in one way or another talk about throwing balls, noise, and whatnot. There is still nothing other than what Kristen brought up about the noise. And 65 dB is
Normal.
Yeah.
I have trouble using that word these days, but yes, sir. It is normal. Without intending to discredit any of the hard work that's gone into this, I don't see anything objective that prevents us from granting the waiver in consideration of two unique circumstances. If we had people standing in line to rent space, that would be one thing. And if the Catholic Church wasn't as big a part of Emmitsburg as it is, that would be another. And so with that said, I believe you can't improve what you can't measure. And there isn't anything objective that would keep us from granting the waiver. I do think that we should be mindful of not setting a precedence that we take into the future.
Okay.
And we have a true expert here. All I did is use artificial intelligence to answer some questions about law and what do you do under certain circumstances. And the two recommendations that I came up with in the query I did is temporary waiver based on enrollment or head count, setting a term limit, a temporary waiver, define clear bench. I mean, there's a lot of recommendations that you could do to be able to look at yourself and objectively say this is working.
Okay.
So set benchmarks, have a list of questions that the school knows we're going to be, not we, but the town is going to be interested in. And they don't need anybody to tell them that they're too loud. They'll know it themselves. So that's the benefit of preventing problems rather than waiting until they occur and having to detect them.
Oh, you mean by having the decibel meter? Or you mean by what?
Anything like a clear benchmark for when a waiver would expire, for example.
Well, we will certainly be setting a time limit on this special exception.
And
yes,
and I've heard that, and I think that's a good idea.
And it should fall within the space of a school year. So if we decide that at the end of this school year, which is what, a month and a half, or at the end of the following school year, whatever that is, whatever time limit we set, that needs to be specified and agreed to. And, we would hope that there would be some positive news on finding a more appropriate location for the school that's not in an industrial park.
And for a school that is in an industrial park, here's a crazy idea, okay? Make a list and call it a checklist of all the things that you've heard as the result of these two hearings and come up with a couple questions and every other month, give the checklist to your neighbors and ask them, are we too noisy? Do something proactive, okay? Try to detect the problem then rather than waiting until somebody starts throwing rocks.
All right, well, we can maybe suggest that during discussion, but that's not anything that we can put in our motion for this, so.
I apologize for the timing, but I can't help myself. I'm an engineer.
Okay, so what we need to decide is if the evaluation by criteria, if we can make a motion to approve or deny the special exception based on these 14 conditions. Some of them are not applicable at all. So I think we can just cross those off. We don't need to mention those, correct? Just subsumed under not applicable.
So at the end of the day, when you reach a decision, you're going to make your motion. If there are any conditions associated with it, you state those conditions, and then you're going to need to make, or I would suggest that you make findings of fact
For
based on the
each-
evidence that you've heard for the relevant factors that went into your decision. So
Okay.
up or down, yeah, you don't need to spend time talking about something, I don't think there's been any testimony or evidence about sewer.
No.
I think that's good.
Or firefighting equipment, right? Okay.
Mr. Slaughter.
Yes,
I think we've heard what we need to hear.
I think we have to.
So it's really just a question of summarizing that in some way that meets the needs of this so that we can grant or not
Or
grant.
deny, correct?
Right? And so if you can just lead us through that, because I think we're at that stage.
All right. All right. The applicable ones that we need to worry about are the ones that are highlighted.
So can I take a shot at it?
Sure, if you'd like to make a first motion.
Well, just cut me off if I'm headed down the wrong path, okay?
Okay, if I know. Go ahead.
Given the concern the town had for orderly growth, Builder First Source concerns of kids playing loudly, throwing balls, playing in the parking lot, running across the main road. All of that may very well have happened, but the statement that it raises serious safety concerns, I think what we've agreed is that the seriousness of them is no different than Ramblewood Drive, which happens to be the street that I live on. The second one is people residing, working, studying in the immediate area. And the concern is student activity during recess. The school heard about the problem today and came here prepared with an equitable solution in hand.
And I gotta ask you a question though. I heard Mr. Zacharias say that he knew about it a couple weeks ago. So
But they didn't.
that was,
So we're not going to do any more back and forth. This is your time.
all right, our time to talk. But I was curious about the discrepancy between those two
No problem.
elements. Not that it's
Number 9.
prejudicial, but
Traffic conditions, including facilities and pedestrians such as sidewalk safety zones and so on.
mhm.
Again, these are issues during recess. All of the problems have already been discussed and the school has a solution.
Mhm. That
The-
recess will not be held in the parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last one is the effect noise on uses of surrounding properties. And again, the issue that was brought up that was new information for tonight is disruptions during recess again.
Mhm.
And we've talked about it 3 times already.
Yeah, a
So
lot of times.
based on the unique circumstances and a objective summary of the concerns presented very well by the town staff, I'd like to make a motion that what should I say next?
Well, your motion would be to deny or approve.
To approve.
Okay.
Subject to any conditions?
The only condition that I would have is that we solicit legal counsel to make sure that we don't sign up for something, set a precedence today that we have to live with forever.
Well, that's what you're doing right now.
That is
The-
our decision,
the-
and Clark is here to make sure that we don't go off the reservation
Th-
or
thi-
somewhere.
This is the
strange.
time. There is no future time. And again, I'm not trying to put a thumb on the scale either way, approve or disapprove. I'm just saying whatever you decide will be. If you unconditionally approve, they will be entitled to use that space for special exception purposes until the end of time or they leave. If you approve it subject to certain conditions, those will be the conditions under which they can remain. If you deny it, you deny it. But there is no coming back, checking in. It's you need to make the decision right now. What's happening?
Then what I would recommend is that we set a term limit of 1 year and that enrollment head count is set at 50. And if you start to approach within 20% of 50, you got to come back to us and tell us, are you going to be able to operate? And if so,
And again, this is a discussion between us. I personally don't agree with you about and that's
I
why
don't
we're
pretend to
discussing
have
it.
all the
Right,
answers.
right.
I'm
So-
good at bad ideas.
All right, let's start with motion to approve. All right. Is that something that you are in favor of?
I suggest we approve.
Okay. All right, so we've gotten
I
that
second.
much out of the way. All right, well, we're gonna do it a little bit. We're gonna put it a little together until a certain time. Now, I would assume that the time limit for the end of the school year would be the end of June. Can I ask that question? June? Pardon? Okay, but the end of June would be like a good time. So am I hearing that you guys are in favor of a 1.5 year? Because that would be
I'm not.
June 2026. All right, let's discuss.
I don't think we should put a constraint on it without asking them. Can I ask you?
I think
And I
we
don't
need
think
to
we should.
discuss.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that. I don't think it's really our business to tell them how long they've got to get their act together and get out of here. I mean, if they're making adaptive changes to the environment, they've got a lot of things very clearly that they've put in place to address all of this. It seems like the issues are at a nominal level right now. And the only thing that we need to be concerned about are any changes that may occur to that. So if for whatever reason it gets disruptive, it gets out of hand or whatever, then I would say, at that point, you have to reconsider. If there's some way, some provision we can put in place, if we begin to get complaints or something like that, that we would need to reconsider this. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't put a time constraint on it.
All right, so let's say that you're right, okay, and we don't. Kristen has talked about a limit of 50 people. And so I think that it would make sense to prevent the next problem rather than detect it. And once you get within 20% of 50, you have to come back here and tell us, are you able to go forward in this facility?
We're not, we have to make sure that we're not stepping into so much detail that we were saying that we're running their business.
It's very simple, 20% of 50. Give
Well,
us a
well, so
warning.
then in my opinion, if you were going to do that, and again, once you grant this, it's not really a matter of coming back. It would be if you set a bar, if you want to put a cap on the number of students and they want to exceed that cap, in that case, they would need to reapply for a special exception. I think that's the way to handle it. My recommendation would not to be something where you're setting the number and doing a percentage. I would just, if you're gonna get into that issue, I would set a number and that's that. And if they get to a point where that is not viable for them and they want to stay in the space, they need to come back for a new special exception.
Yeah, because
I
the
agree
issue
with
is if we set a special exception and we say there's an unlimited time, then anyone else could come to us and based on previous judgments or special exceptions granted by this board could come back and say, well, we need to have that same special exception. You've already granted it for this unallowed, unauthorized use, unpermitted use in a industrial park. So we have to.
I have a question, Diane.
Yeah.
The landlord could easily be policing this for us because they'll get the complaints.
And he did
If
say,
if we begin getting complaints from the landlord that they're not doing what they said they would do and things have gotten out of hand and he's hearing from his other tenants that it's unbearable and all that, the game changes at that point. We need to have a sit down and talk through that, or we need to have some way of just saying, this is undoable and we need to move in another direction. We do need to do that. But I think in the absence of that, we don't really have anything. It's a question of, who's witnessing it? Well, the landlord would be, the neighbors would be, and we've heard from the relevant parties that there aren't any issues. They're supportive of it. If they suddenly decide they're not, then we'll hear about it. I guess we need to revisit it then.
I would feel much more comfortable putting a time limit on it because I think we need to not set the bar for an unlimited amount of time. So I would be comfortable suggesting.
Suppose
June.
we had a waiver of explicitly temporary.
Has to be objective. I've
Yeah.
litigated what
You're the
I have
expert.
litigated what temporary means in a very similar context. We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
it-
say we need to say, and here's what I'm looking at. If we do vote to approve, make the motion to approve, I would suggest we pick either June 2026 as an end time or June 2027, if you're comfortable going that far.
What's the end of the lease?
Kristen, how do you feel about that?
I don't.
It's not, again, we're not soliciting.
Sorry.
I know, and I'm
No, that's okay.
not trying to be the bad guy, but
I don't know. We can't.
The lease,
We can't let our decisions. be
but the
based on
lease
that.
is a time frame. It's a parameter.
Mhm.
And it's relevant because if they violate the terms of the lease, they have to leave anyhow.
Right.
And so we can review, if you'd like, on those lease cycles. And we can work with the landlord to hear any complaints and, take some decisions or take some actions based upon those complaints. But I think at this point, what we're really trying to do is either tell them this is acceptable or it's not.
Right.
And there's risk involved in it. And I think, that risk is so largely mitigated at this point. It's not significant anymore. None of this is terribly threatening. So, and I think actually denying them the opportunity to conduct business there in the best interest of those students, that is threatening.
So make a motion.
Yeah, I would like to motion to approve.
Until,
I have no time constraint.
I really think we do need a time constraint. Are you saying June 2026 is too soon? I hear what you're saying about no time constraint, but I think that leaves us wide open, and I'm not comfortable with having no
If,
time
if, if
constraint.
you feel that June 2026 is not draconian for them, then go ahead. I'll buy that. I mean, they're living with a time constraint on the lease anyhow. I
Mhm.
have no issue with that. It's just that I don't want to be imposing unnecessary burdens on them to keep them from being able to do this job. I mean, they're educators,
Right.
so let's just accept that. That's what we're dealing with here. This is not a business entity in the classic sense, although they are, but they're not. And
Mhm.
so, in that sense, we need to have a certain amount of care and consideration for how they go about doing their work and what they need in terms of the freedoms to do that work. And we just can't be obstructionist. We have to, say, all right, and then we have to trust that they're going to do it. They seem acceptable to me. And I think that the risk to the community for what it's worth is minimal. So I would approve this.
Okay.
So.
What about your
The
sense in
motion
terms of
is
time?
that we add the time limit of June 26th.
Well, I suggested June 26th. Wayne suggested not having a time limit, so I'd like to hear your
I will
thoughts.
I will be willing to do a time limit if that's something that will get you over the edge with this, because to me, the important thing is I think we need to give them the ability to continue doing what they're doing.
Mhm.
We just do. I don't think we can stand in the way any more than we already have. So if you want to put a constraint on it, that's fine. Pick a date. To me, it's somewhat arbitrary, but if you want to say June 2026, okay. That's a year from now.
Or 2027. I could live with 2027. I just don't want to set the bar so high that we're
2027,
inviting.
2027 is fine.
2027 is fine.
All right, there you
All
go.
right.
It's 2 years.
That's the motion. Somebody second it?
All right.
Okay, who made the motion? You did. I can't make motions, so
All
Scott
right,
made
then
the
I would
motion
Second that motion.
to approve
For abundance of clarity,
2027, and we need to state our findings
yes,
of fact.
but, and you're gonna look at me like I'm crazy. June 1, 2027, June 30,
June
2027.
30, 2027.
Just looking for
No,
abundance of clarity.
Makes sense. Thank you for bringing that up. That's why I asked when school typically closes and you need some time after that.
Yes.
All right.
So if that is your motion, I would also suggest that you make findings of
Findings
fact as to why you have reached this conclusion based on the evidence you've been presented and the factors you have to consider.
Okay, so findings of fact. For factor number 2, criteria number 2. What we could say here is that Blue Line, we have heard, we have testimony that Blue Line is comfortable remaining at the place with the mitigation measures in place. And that would be the noise reducing panels. All right. So that would be our first finding of fact, that they didn't actually testify, but they said that to you, and they said that to the owner, correct? All right. So Blue Line has reported that the noise reducing panels will alleviate the concern of noise disturbances also based on the testimony we've heard today from the director of the school, whatever her title is, Kristen Cook,
Yes.
Kristen Crook, that the concern raised by Builders First Source has been alleviated by moving recess moving resource away from the location of the school. Right? Okay. I would say that those are two findings of fact under number 2. You guys have anything to add to that? I'm just trying to look at what those criteria are and then say what we heard that makes us believe that that's okay.
Well, the landlord said that he thinks that this will work and he thinks it's particularly comparable to other arrangements that he's witnessed himself. So,
Right.
you know, I don't know what more you can get out of somebody. That'll have to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, but we just need to say to give a specific finding of fact. For
You
each of the
could-
criteria.
You could say that you heard testimony from the landlord that certain things would not be happening anymore. That's how you could frame that if you wanted to incorporate that
He
testimony.
agreed with the
All right.
proposed solutions.
Okay. That he agreed with, that he had addressed the noise concerns and the safety concerns in the parking lot through working with the school. Can we group the?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we can group those criteria.
Yes.
We can say that addresses criteria number 2, 7, 9, and 12.
Yes. I think that you could make a motion now with the condition that you've agreed to incorporate the findings of fact that you just stated.
Okay. So the motion is to approve until June 30th, 2027. And the findings of fact are related to those 4 criteria based on testimony from the owner of the buildings and the mitigation measures that the school has testified to putting in place.
Second.
Well, I couldn't make the motion, but yeah. Scott, you said what I just said.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Scott made the motion, you seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. The motion carries. Good. Thank you. Is she still there? You can stop recording.
Can you move to adjourn?
Oh, I would.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Yes. Now we can stop.